Almost everything that you tell your therapist while you're in session is going to be kept confidential, but there are a few times where a therapist has to break confidentiality. This means that they might talk to somebody else about something that you've said during session. These things usually have to do with safety. Therapists are required to do things to try to help keep people safe. So, what are the limits of confidentiality, and when is your therapist going to break with that and maybe tell something that you have said to somebody else? I'm going to cover some of this today, and if you have other questions about this specific topic, you can check out some of our other videos where we talk about things like cutting or suicidal thoughts. So today, just talking about confidentiality, I think it's important to know that this is kind of a little bit different depending on whether you're under 18 or whether you're over 18. So if a client is under 18 and they disclose to a therapist that they have been abused, either right now or in the past, a therapist is required to report that to Child Protective Services. The therapist hopefully won't do that behind your back, but it is something that they're required to do. And so if you're under 18 and that happens, know that your therapist is likely to tell somebody about that. In addition, some therapists feel that they need to keep parents informed about things like if their child is using substances or self-harming or something like that. So if you're under 18, you might want to check with your therapist before you talk to them about some of those issues, because those things may not be kept confidential. So what other kinds of things are not kept confidential? As a therapist, it's my job to make sure that people are safe. So if somebody comes in and tells me that they have a plan to harm either themselves or somebody else, that's something that I would have to disclose to another party. If it's a situation that's very serious, as in like you're leaving my office and you're telling me you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, then I may need to call the police or may need to make sure that you have a ride to the hospital emergency room so that you can go and get stabilized back to a place where you and others can be safe before you go back to your life and go back out into the community. That is something that's true whether you are over or under 18. So suicidal thoughts, not just thoughts, plans, are something that your therapist is likely to break your confidentiality over. Finally, what if you're over 18 and you're being abused? This is something that your therapist is actually not going to tell somebody else about unless they are concerned about you being in specific danger for your life. This is something that your therapist is not likely to disclose to other people unless your life is actually in danger, or if there are children that are witnessing the abuse or are being abused also. If you're an adult and you're in an abusive relationship, your therapist is not likely to report that. Instead, they're going to help you figure out different things that you need to do to be safe. I often get questions from people about whether therapists have to disclose things like if they're breaking the law or if they're using substances or something like that. And the answer is no. Those things that you tell your therapist will be kept confidential. And even if you are breaking the law, that's not something that a therapist has to report unless it is something that is making somebody else unsafe. So hopefully this answered some of your questions about the limits of confidentiality. For more information on these topics, please send some comments and we'll see if we can answer your questions, or check out some of our other videos that discuss these topics.